This is Alex Foxley reporting live from the front room. The battleground behind me is fraught with no faction willing to give any ground. Intelligence suggests at least 4 factions are fighting for control of this living room: Wi-Fi, Matter, Zigbee and Z-Wave. Until recently, none of them have been willing to talk to one another, although Matter and Wi-Fi have now apparently formed an uneasy alliance. Matter has gained ground in recent months, taking the much sought-after territories of IKEA and Akara, while Zigbee remains the people's champion. Z-Wave still claims to be in the war, but is no longer seriously considered to be a true combatant, as it has ceded far too much territory at this point. Casualties are mounting, morale is low. Matter claims it can bring an end to this conflict, but the consensus at the front is that they've heard all of that before. But they all agree that this opening skit is actually a valid use of AI, although I'm sure many viewers will disagree. Back to the studio.
Thanks, Alex. Harrowing stuff. All right. While there's actually very little violence going on, if you discount Reddit, there really is a war going on inside your smart home. And today I want to walk you through who's actually fighting, who's winning, and who I think you should be backing if you're building a smart home today. So go grab a coffee. I'll get one too, and then we'll get into it. Just a heads up, this is not a lesson about Zigbee or Thread. From here on, I'm going to talk as if you already know roughly what Zigbee, Thread and Matter are. If those words mean nothing to you, that's completely fine. I've made full What the Heck episodes on them. There's one on Zigbee and one on Thread and Matter together. Both are live right now. Links are down below and on the cards up here. Go watch those and then come back, and then the rest of this will make a lot more sense. For everyone still here, let's meet the combatants. Zigbee is the scrappy people's champion. It's cheap, it's everywhere, and right now it's winning. Thread is the young upstart with rich backers and a lot to prove. It's newer, it's built on proper modern networking, and a lot of very big companies are piling in behind it. Matter isn't really a fighter at all. Think of it like the peace envoy who turned up promising to make everyone get along and doing a pretty poor job of it. We'll all see how that's going later, but for now let's just say that it's a mixed bag. And then there are 3 that I will explain a little bit because I haven't made What the Heck episodes about them yet. Z-Wave is the grizzled veteran. It's been fighting since the mid-2000s. Does roughly the same job as Zigbee, low power mesh for sensors and locks, but it runs on a completely different radio frequency. It's a bigger deal in America than it is here, and we'll get into why that matters later. Fair warning, I have a bad habit of pronouncing Z in both the American and British way interchangeably for no practical reason. If that annoys you, I guess I'll see you in the next one. Yeah. Wi-Fi is the heavyweight that wandered in from next door and started throwing its weight around. You know Wi-Fi. It's in your phone, your telly, your smart speaker, and possibly your toaster for some reason. Wi-Fi doesn't need a hub, which is exactly why it causes so much trouble. Bluetooth is the one that keeps on insisting that it belongs at the table. It's the same Bluetooth that connects your headphones. A few smart home devices use it, mostly just to get set up, and then for the most part it just sits quietly in a corner. It's not really involved in the war in a meaningful way, but we'll get to that. So those are the factions. Now let me tell you about the war.
Don't mention the war.
What makes this a war, not just a shopping decision, is that you can't change your mind for free. If you pick Coke today and fancy Pepsi tomorrow, nothing bad happens, you just buy the other one. Smart home protocols aren't like that. The moment you commit, you're locked in at a hardware level. A Zigbee sensor cannot physically talk to a Z-Wave hub. A Z-Wave switch cannot join a Thread network. They're speaking different languages on different radios, and there's no amount of clever software that bodges around that. You picked a side. Switching sides means buying new kit.
Well, looks like you're stuck with me.
The best thing you can do is hedge your bets by buying hubs that cover multiple protocols. Even today, those are still your only options. Either pick a side or buy enough hubs to cover the bases. For the best part of 2 decades, the main scrap was Zigbee versus Z-Wave. 2 protocols, same basic job, slugging it out since the mid-2000s. If you got into this hobby before about 2020, then your very first decision was almost certainly Zigbee or Z-Wave. Or you might have done what I did and not actually realise there was a difference, buy a Z-Wave device and then be confused as to why your Zigbee hub didn't work with it. Then Wi-Fi kicked the door in, because it doesn't need a hub. You just bung a device on your router and away you go. Which sounds wonderful, right up until 40 gadgets are all elbowing each other for airtime and your network starts getting all stressed out. And then Thread showed up and made everything better. Or worse, the jury's still out on that one. What I can tell you for certain is that Thread made everything more confusing. And that's the bit that nobody disagrees with.
You ruined everything.
Let's talk about the veteran, because this is going to upset some people. I do not recommend starting a new smart home with Z-Wave, not in 2026, and especially not in the UK. And I want to be really clear, this isn't me saying Z-Wave is a bad technology. I know I make jokes at Z-Wave's expense a lot, but that's mostly because I find it funny. It's actually a really good product, and there's an argument to be made that it's actually superior to Zigbee in some ways.
What did he say?
It's a fight it largely lost for reasons that have nothing to do with how good it is. Z-Wave spent years as a closed shop. One company controlled the chips, the licensing, the whole kit and caboodle. It did eventually open up, but it took so long to get there, but by the time it did, Zigbee had already won on the two things that actually decide these fights: price and availability.
You had the money, you had the right instincts, but you were too late, that's all.
Z-Wave kit has always cost more than the Zigbee equivalent, and it's a fair point against it. And here in the UK, you kind of have to go hunting for it these days. It's on Amazon, but the choices are thin, and the prices make it a really hard sell when there's cheaper and more available alternatives sat right next to it. I can wander around IKEA on a Saturday and come out with a bag full of Zigbee gear for pocket money, at least until their legacy stock runs out. We'll get to that part. The gap is enormous, and it's been like that for years. The main issue, though, is that Z-Wave is region locked. The devices run on different radio frequencies depending on which country you're in. So an American Z-Wave switch physically will not work in a British house. You can't even bodge it. It's baked into the hardware. This is probably the main reason it's dying, is it makes importing and exporting devices a hassle, which will prevent costs from ever being able to match the more flexible alternatives. Now, in the interest of being fair, because I'm really not here to kick a good protocol while it's down, there's a version of Z-Wave called Z-Wave Long Range that is actually really quite impressive. We're talking up to 1.5 miles of range as long as it's got line of sight, and a single hub handling something like 4,000 devices. Those are not normal numbers, those are serious numbers. It runs on sub-gigahertz frequencies, which means it isn't fighting your Wi-Fi for radio space, and that's a real advantage. I'm not sure exactly how amazing that actually is for consumer use. I see this as more advantageous for industrial rather than home use, but there's no denying that it's cool as heck. There are well over 100 million Z-Wave devices out there in the world, and it's particularly strong on security kit, smart locks especially. So if you're in America and you've already got a Z-Wave setup that's humming along nicely, I'm absolutely not telling you to rip it out, that would be silly. And honestly, I tried Z-Wave myself years ago and gave up. Not because it was rubbish, but because there simply wasn't the range of devices available over here. And the ones I did find were a lot pricier than their alternative counterparts. Where I would point somebody at Z-Wave is the big stuff. Enterprise, government, industry, thousands of devices, range that stretch across entire campuses. For that, it's superb. But David, you don't need that in your flat. Also, put your phone down and pay attention, I can see you. Z-Wave did not lose because it's no good. It lost because the other side was cheaper, easier to buy, and became an open standard sooner. If you're flying the Z-Wave flag, fair play to you. It's a perfectly good protocol. I'm sure it serves you well. I'd just be lying to you if I told you that the numbers were on your side. You were a major contender in the war once, but your fighting days are over. You're not even really on the battlefield anymore.
You can rest.
Which brings us neatly to the side that's actually winning right now. Zigbee. I've already told you why Zigbee beat Z-Wave, so I won't belabor the ecosystem stuff again. You've already got it. Bigger, cheaper, easier to find. What I will tell you is why it's still the one I put my own money on today and what it's actually like to live with. I've run Zigbee for years and it's been rock solid. I've got Home Assistant doing the thinking, a dedicated Zigbee coordinator handling the radio, and my sensors, bulbs, buttons and switches all just get on with their jobs. The community side is where the real magic is. Tools like Zigbee to MQTT and ZHA mean I can mix and match devices from loads of different manufacturers without being trapped in anybody's proprietary app. That freedom is worth a lot. If it had stuck to being a closed protocol like Z-Wave did, these apps would likely have never come about. It used to be messier than this, to be fair. The older versions of Zigbee had this irritating habit where devices from different brands wouldn't always play nicely together. Zigbee 3 sorted most of that out. These days, a Zigbee 3 device from one company should happily talk to a Zigbee 3 coordinator from another. Should. In practice, it's still not flawless, and I'm looking directly at Philips Hue when I say that, but it's a world away from how it used to be. Even Philips got the memo eventually, and it's mostly only their older devices that don't really play nicely. So if you cornered me right now and asked which protocol to build a smart home on today, my answer's still Zigbee. Biggest choice, best prices, most mature, least drama. It's the safe bet. But I don't think it gets to keep the crown, because a new player has entered the game. I want Zigbee to win the war, I really do, but I'd be lying to you if I said I wasn't keeping a very close eye on Thread. I'll keep the why it matters bit short, because the full explanation is in that What the Heck episode I mentioned earlier. Thread does a lot of what Zigbee does. It's a low power mesh, it's kind to batteries, but it's built on proper modern internet networking underneath. The upshot is there's no proprietary middleman translating everything. It just slots in to how networks are supposed to work in the first place. That's the whole pitch. And it's a good one, but the spec sheet isn't really what got my attention. It's the money. Because the direction the big manufacturers are walking, it's kind of impossible to ignore. Look at IKEA. They've just rolled out 21 new smart home devices and they're all matter over Thread. They're still selling Zigbee stuff, but they're not making any new ones. So once they're gone, that's it. No more Zigbee stuff from IKEA. They pushed an update out to their Dirigira hub so that it can support Matter and Thread, while still acting as a Zigbee bridge for your existing gear. The hub is pretty cheap as well, so it's actually kind of a good route into going dual protocol for a lot of people. Kara appears to be doing the same dance. Their M3 hub speaks Zigbee, Thread and Wi-Fi all at once. Your existing Zigbee devices get pulled into Matter via a Matter bridge, and everything new they make appears to be aimed at Thread. That's the pattern, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. Nobody's ripping out Zigbee, but the research and development budgets, the new launches, the future, all of it's flowing towards Thread. When the biggest names in the business are all rowing in the same direction, you'd be a fool to ignore which way the boat's pointing. I've dipped my own toe in with some of the new IKEA stuff. It's early days and I'm still settling in, but so far, the Thread stuff's been great. I recently swapped my old Sonoff Zigbee coordinator for an SM Lite SLZB MR3U. That's a dual radio coordinator, which means it can run Zigbee and Thread at the same time. It means I can keep every Zigbee device I own while bolting on Thread devices whenever I fancy. Best of both worlds. No commitment issues. The only negative thing to say about that product is it's a pain to say the name of it in YouTube videos. I'm not calling Thread the winner yet. The device choice is still smaller than Zigbee's and the whole thing needs time to grow up. I'm also not really a fan of Matter for reasons I explained in the What the Heck is Matter video, but if you ask me what's likely to be running most smart homes in 5 years, I think it's Thread. I'm not thrilled about saying that. I'd much rather Zigbee for the win, but I can see that the writing's on the wall.
This is fine.
Now we have to talk about the heavyweight in the room, Wi-Fi. Because it's the protocol most people are using without ever stopping to really think about it. Every smart speaker you own is on Wi-Fi. Your TV or set-top boxes too, assuming you've not run a cable to them. Your wireless cameras, almost certainly Wi-Fi. And for that sort of kit, Wi-Fi is the right call. Streaming audio and video is hungry work. If a device needs a fat data pipe and a constant connection, Wi-Fi is exactly the tool for the job. Where it all gets a bit silly is when devices that need none of that end up on Wi-Fi anyway. Loads of smart plugs use it, purely so you can skip buying a hub. Plug it in, connect it to the router, done. I understand the appeal, I really do, but that convenience has a price tag attached. Every single Wi-Fi device takes up a slot on your router. It eats an IP address, it fights for airtime on the 2.4 GHz band, and the moment you start piling on dozens of sensors and switches and bulbs over Wi-Fi, you will feel it. So I keep my own Wi-Fi smart home devices to the bare minimum. I only reach for Wi-Fi when something truly needs it or when there's simply no better option. Everything else lives on Zigbee or Thread, off on its own little mesh, leaving my actual network alone to get on with its day. If you've got 10 smart devices and they're all on Wi-Fi, you're probably fine, don't lose sleep over it, but the second you start dreaming about scaling up, you're going to want a proper low power protocol for all of the little stuff, and Wi-Fi save for the things that actually earn it. If you're technically minded enough and you have the budget, you can get around this by running a separate Wi-Fi network just for your smart home gear, but that's not really an option for a lot of people, especially when they're just starting out. It's also not the magic bullet a lot of people say it is.
I've come to the conclusion that it's just not worth it.
This leaves poor old Bluetooth still stood on the sidelines, still convinced it's about to be called up to active duty. I'll be quick because it deserves about this much of your time. Bluetooth is the same tech that pairs your headphones, and a few smart home gadgets use it, but it's usually just to get themselves set up for the first time. After that, it mostly just goes quiet. A few companies do seem to want it to succeed. Switchbot and Flick both seem to love it, but even the latest hubs from both companies have a Matter bridge built into them now, so it seems that even they are starting to realise which way the wind is blowing.
I am inevitable.
I have had Switchbot devices in the past, and provided you have a hub, they're pretty decent products that I do actually think are quite good. I would prefer it if they dropped Bluetooth and went to a better option, but the hardware itself is still mostly great. If you don't have a Bluetooth hub though, then give Bluetooth devices a wide berth, as they'll only actually work when physically in range of your phone, and as the actual backbone of a smart home, that is a non-starter. Bluetooth 5 addresses some of the issues with Bluetooth, but I think we're in too little too late territory now. It's a perfectly nice companion for setup, but it is not a protocol you build a smart home on. Moving on. Now for the peace envoy. Matter. Matter isn't a radio protocol at all. It's a common language that sits on top of Thread, Wi-Fi and Ethernet. The radio's job is getting the data from one place to another. Matter's job is making sure that when turn the lights on arrives, every device understands it the same way, no matter who built it. And the promise is fantastic. Buy one Matter bulb and it just works with Apple Home, Google Home, Amazon, SmartThings, Home Assistant, everything. No more looking at compatibility lists and no more praying that your platform just supports the thing that you just bought.
I knew exactly what to do, but in a much more real sense, I had no idea what to do.
To its credit, Matter has made real progress. There are well over 750 certified products now from hundreds of brands. The latest version added cameras, garage doors, and even soil sensors and proper energy management. And local control is baked in by default, which is a big deal to somebody like me. But the promise and the reality still aren't really matching up yet. Different platforms adopt new versions of Matter at wildly different speeds. So that lovely "buy Matter works everywhere" pitch is only half true today. It works everywhere. Sort of. Some features turn up on some platforms and not others. A device that pairs like a dream with one ecosystem will sulk in the corner with another. I do think Matter's going to get there in the end. The backing behind it is just too big to fail. Apple, Google, Amazon, Samsung, IKEA, all pushing the same direction. But it's still very much in its Wild West era. So if anyone tells you Matter has already solved the smart home compatibility mess, they're either a few years ahead of reality or they're trying to sell you something. There's one more thing I want to flag, and this one is pure speculation. It actually might come to nothing. The folks behind Zigbee, Thread and Matter, yes, they are actually the same organisation, announced something called Zigbee 4 at the end of 2025. The headline feature is the code name Suzi, and what it does is let Zigbee run on sub-gigahertz frequencies. That's the same patch of spectrum that Z-Wave uses, and the appeal is better range and better wall penetration than the 2.4 GHz band Zigbee lives on today. If Suzi actually lands, it could give Zigbee a real second wind. Better range, less interference, all the sub-gigahertz perks without the region-looking headache that hobbled Z-Wave. On paper, sounds great, but there are exactly 0 Suzi products that you can buy today. None. The certification's barely getting going. From where you and I are sitting right now, this is still vaporware. It might be wonderful, it might change the whole game, but I'm not going to factor something into my advice when I can't actually put it in my basket. I've been burned by the promise of "it'll be amazing when it ships" far too many times. Cheers for that Kickstarter. So yeah, it's worth knowing about, but no, it's not worth waiting for. Okay, so now you understand the war and who the players in the game are. So what side do I think you should be on right now? For the bulk of your smart home, your sensors, your bulbs, your switches, all of the bread and butter stuff, I still go Team Zigbee. It has the biggest choice, the best prices, and it's been battle tested for years. Pair it with Home Assistant and a Zigbee coordinator, and you've got something reliable, local, and not chained to anybody's cloud or ecosystem. That's still the majority of what I run, and it's been brilliant. If Home Assistant feels like a bit much, a Homey Pro is a gentler way in for beginners. Hubatat is also supposed to be really good. And if you want the absolutely easiest start going, the IKEA Dirajira hub will do just nicely. Just know that if the automation bug really sinks its teeth in, you might outgrow it faster than you'd like. Your camera, tellies and smart speakers are going to be on Wi-Fi, and that's fine. That's what they need. Just keep the numbers sensible and make sure your network can take the strain. If you can run an Ethernet cable to any of them, do that instead, your router will thank you. If you're ever stuck choosing between a Zigbee version and a Thread version of the same device, I'd still go Zigbee for now. The ecosystem's more grown up, the support's wider, and it's the one that I know works. Thread will probably overtake it down the line, but I'm not about to recommend the future when the present option is still the better buy. I wouldn't bother with Bluetooth as a main protocol. And if you want to hedge your bets properly, get yourself a dual coordinator that handles both Zigbee and Thread. I use the SM Lite one that I mentioned earlier, which runs the pair of them side by side. That way, you get everything Zigbee gives you today, and you're not locked out of Thread if the wind keeps blowing the way I think it will. Link down below. The war isn't over. Thread's rising, Matter's slowly growing up, and in some markets Z-Wave still exists. But the good news is, you don't have to sit around waiting for a winner before you start building. Zigbee's excellent today, Thread's probably the future, and a dual coordinator means you never actually have to pick a side. So that's the state of the war as it stands today. There's no clear victor. We have a veteran bowing out gracefully, an upstart gaining ground, and a peace envoy who's very much still working on it. The front lines will have moved again by the time you finished your coffee. They always do. Come tell me in the comments which side you're fighting for, and brace yourself because I have a feeling the Z-Wave lot are going to want a word. I'll be over on the Discord if you fancy having it out properly. If you fancy tying your flag to a side, head over to shop.foxyslab.com and pick yourself a team. I've got a Patreon and a YouTube membership now. I haven't really got a huge amount to offer you yet, save for the occasional early video and a few behind the scenes stuff, but it really helps make these videos, and if you want to support the channel, that's a great way to do it. I'll pop a few links down below. Thanks Foxy. The war shows no sign of ending anytime soon, but I think we'll push this bit as far as we can. If viewers want to know more, they should check out this video right here. This is Alex Foxley signing out from the front. Ta-ra!